Hi, my name is Ishmael and today we're going to be talking about rent arrears. I know I've covered this subject before, but I wanted to do an update on it because things have changed and I wanted to show you how the pandemic has affected or is still affecting the rents. So, I've decided to cover this topic because I've noticed that rent arrears are drastically changing. Now, obviously since the pandemic in 2020, we had a lot of issues with people not being able to pay rent, rent arrears rising, and people asking for requests of rent reductions or rent holidays. Now that has slowly and surely changed. And as of the second quarter of 2021, we saw that rent arrears were at an all-time low according to the study that is done and started in 2021. Started in the first quarter of 2021, and since then rent arrears have not been as low as they are today, meaning the number of tenants in rent arrears has not been this low. That's great news because that means we're actually better off than in 2021 where the survey started compared to what we are now, which means the number of tenants is down. However, it isn't quite all plain sailing because the amount of rent arrears that each tenant owes on average, yes, it has been dropping since the height of the pandemic. About a year ago, second quarter of 2022, that is when the height of the pandemic meant that a lot of people were on average in nearly £2,000 worth of debt, about £1,800 worth of debt. Now, that also meant that about 2.1 people per landlord, now I don't know how they figure out per landlord, because not all landlords have more than 2 properties. So how can they do 2.1? I don't know. So it's an average over the portfolios that large landlords have. But the amount of rent owed has dropped. The amount of tenants that owe rent has also dropped. It has dropped to 1.3% of tenants per landlord currently owing rent arrears. And the figure of rent arrears has also dropped. And it is now the lowest since 2017, so since way before the pandemic, which means we're actually better off now as landlords than we were since 2017 and in some cases since 2011, which means, what does that mean for landlord? Well, it means that landlords are now in a good position. Yes, they're talking about removing Section 21, and yes, they're talking about going through all these changes. But if you know how to vet a tenant and you vet the tenants properly, these things don't really matter to us. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, whack the bell notification icon to get notified of videos coming out each and every week so you stay updated on this sort of information. So why does this information not really matter? That they're taking away Section 21 and changing Section 8 and making it all difficult for landlords? Well, because if you're a good landlord and you vet your tenant properly and you have a good tenant-landlord relationship, you should not have any issues. Now yes, that does happen that you do get issues, you did vet the tenant and their circumstances change and everything changes. It does happen. But it doesn't happen as often. And there's multiple ways you can actually stop getting a bad tenant. But I won't go into that in this video. So what do I think is happening? Well, by the looks of things, we are coming out of the recession. Now I'm not going to say we are out of the recession yet, or the risk of recession rather, because we were never officially in a proper recession. I won't say we were out of a recession risk. However, things are looking up. Furlough payments are ending, and that, or rather have just ended, and that was the critical point. Now October is the critical mass point to find out what is going to happen to the global economy as well as the UK economy, with the debt crisis which has piled up and how people are repaying their bounce back loans and so on, because this is now when it hits. So what's going to happen? Well, only time will tell, and we will see if loads of properties start coming on the market, because everyone said there's going to be a lot of repossessions and such things when the furlough scheme ends. Well, we can only see what happens. However, unemployment levels are at an all-time low since 2019. Which means since before the pandemic they are actually lower now than since before the pandemic. So if unemployment is lower and rent arrears are lower, what does that mean? Well, it suggests that the property market is stable and possibly increasing. It suggests that the job market is stable and possibly increasing. And it also suggests that the economy in the UK has survived the pandemic and possibly is going to continue to grow, if not stabilise. But we can only wait until January to see what happens, because the effects of the furlough haven't impacted yet, and also there are landlords who are said to be getting out while the property prices are at an all-time high, according to research and statistics from Savills. So if the landlord's getting out, if the tenants are getting in, we will see what actually happens. But from what I'm seeing in the property market, what I'm seeing with the job market, and from what research I am finding, it is suggesting that if you go away from the mainstream media and you look at the actual data behind everything, things are looking good. So like this video again, subscribe if it's helping you, and stay notified just to make sure you get amazing videos each and every week.